They call Route 66 the Mother Road. For most people, it's nostalgia. Neon signs, vintage motels, the ghost of America's golden age. But if you talk to the ones who still drive it, the truckers, the drifters, the lost, you'll hear something else. Stories that don't make the travel brochures. Stories that start with a gas stop, a motel light, a voice on the radio, and end with silence. This summer, 5 travelers vanished somewhere between Illinois and California. No headlines, no follow-ups, just 5 names, 5 places, 5 nights along the same highway. So tonight, let's take a drive, and maybe you'll understand why no one calls it the Main Street of America after dark. These are 5 terrifying true stories from Route 66. This happened in late June, somewhere outside Tucumcari, New Mexico, on Route 66. I was driving cross-country alone, trying to make it from Amarillo to Flagstaff in one shot. It was close to midnight when my gas light came on. Out there, the desert feels endless. No towns, no traffic, not even the hum of insects. When I finally saw a flickering neon sign that said, gas/open, it felt like salvation. I pulled in. The place looked ancient, half buried in dust. One pump, an office trailer, and a bent telephone pole buzzing with flies. The sign still glowed red, but the open part kept stuttering. There was one truck parked beside the building, lights off. It looked abandoned. I stepped out, and the wind carried that dry, metallic smell you get before a storm. No music, no traffic, just the dull whine of the pump's motor. I peeked inside the office window. Rows of old snacks, everything coated with sand, a single fluorescent light blinking like it was on its last breath. Then a voice behind me said, "Need a fill?" I nearly jumped. An older man in a grease-stained shirt had appeared out of nowhere, holding a flashlight that barely worked. His eyes didn't quite meet mine. He asked where I was headed. I told him Flagstaff. He nodded slowly, then said something I'll never forget. Not a good night to keep driving west. Before I could ask why, he turned and walked back inside. I started pumping gas anyway. Halfway through, the pump sputtered and stopped. The digital numbers froze. I gave a few taps, nothing. Then the lights in the office went out completely. The only illumination left was from my car's headlights, casting long, crooked shadows across the lot. I heard a door slam inside, followed by a metallic clatter like tools hitting concrete. I called out, "Sir, you okay in there?" No answer. The wind picked up, and somewhere far out in the dark, a sign banged rhythmically against its post. It almost sounded like knocking. I moved closer to the office door and noticed handprints on the glass. They were wet, as if someone had just pressed their palms there seconds ago, but my own skin was dry. When I looked down, I saw mud tracks leading from the door around the corner of the building. Fresh ones. It hadn't rained for days. I followed them a few steps until I heard a raspy, breathing sound, like someone trying to whisper through a broken pipe. That's when every hair on my arm stood up. I didn't wait to find out what it was. I got back in my car and turned the key. The engine didn't start. Only a click. Again. Click. Nothing. The gas station was pitch black now. Not even the neon sign. I grabbed my phone for light. No signal. But the screen showed a notification I didn't understand. Photo. Saved to camera roll. I hadn't taken any photos. I opened my gallery. There was a new image, blurry, shot from behind my car. It was me, standing at the pump, taken just moments ago. In the background, you could see someone standing by the door of the office, half hidden by shadow. They were staring at me, and they were holding something that reflected the light, maybe metal, maybe a tool. I looked up from the screen. The door was closed, but I swear I saw a movement inside. I panicked and slammed the ignition again. The engine coughed, then roared to life as every light on the dashboard flickered at once. I hit the gas so hard I almost peeled off the asphalt. In my rearview mirror, the station was completely dark again, except for one flash of light that blinked once, twice, then stayed on long enough for me to see the shape of a figure standing in the middle of the lot, holding that same object. The next second, the light died. 2 hours later, I made it to a truck stop near Gallup. The attendant there asked if I'd come from Tucumcari. When I nodded, he just said, "You didn't stop at the old 76, did you?" Apparently, that station had been shut down for years after a robbery gone wrong. 3 people were killed there. One of them was a customer trying to help. They never found the attendant. The man was last seen wearing a grease-stained shirt and a torn cap. Same as the one who told me not to keep driving west that night. This happened in July, somewhere between Kingman and Barstow. I've been driving for nearly 10 hours under that brutal Arizona sun, half delirious from energy drinks and cheap gas station food. It was close to 1 a.m. when I spotted a glowing sign in the distance that read Mirage Motel Vacancy. The neon shimmered pink against the desert sky like something out of a forgotten postcard. I just wanted a bed and shower. The lobby was empty, except for a dusty fan and a small bell on the counter. When I rang it, a woman appeared from a back office, so quietly I didn't hear her footsteps. She was pale, with long black hair and a faded blue dress that looked decades old. No greeting, no smile, just a slow, deliberate question. One night, I nodded. Her hands trembled as she slid the key across the counter, an old brass tag, stamped room 9. When I tried to pay, she just said, "You can settle in the morning." Her voice was flat, like she was repeating lines she'd said 1,000 times before. Room 9 was at the far end of the lot, facing the open desert. The key barely turned in the lock. Inside, it smelled of dust and bleach. The walls had yellow stains in the shape of old frames long removed. I tossed my bag on the bed and noticed something strange. There were no mirrors. Not one. Not even in the bathroom. The only reflective surface was the black TV screen, which wouldn't turn on. I tried the remote, then the buttons on the side. Nothing. I remember thinking maybe the power in that room was faulty. I showered quickly, left the bathroom light on, and lay down. That's when I started hearing it. Faint knocking, like someone tapping on the wall from the next room. 3 taps, pause, then 2 more. I figured it was pipes or wind. But the pattern repeated. Then again, then louder. I got up and pressed my ear to the wall. The tapping stopped instantly. I waited. Nothing. But when I turned to walk back to bed, I heard whispering from behind that same wall. Just one sentence, low but clear enough to understand. "Don't let her in." I froze. There was a knock on my door immediately after. Soft, polite, exactly 3 times. Every instinct screamed not to move, but curiosity got the better of me. I peeked through the peephole. At first, I saw only darkness. Then, the woman from the front desk leaned into view. She was smiling now, but it didn't look right. Her lips didn't move naturally, and her eyes were wider than before. She mouthed something I couldn't hear, then raised her hand and knocked again, harder. The metal of the peephole felt cold against my skin. I stepped back quietly. The knocking stopped. Then, slowly, the doorknob began to turn. Not a rattle, a full, steady twist. I ran to the window, but it wouldn't open. The lock was painted over. For maybe 30 seconds, I stood frozen, staring at that handle turning back and forth. Then silence. Nothing but the wind outside. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner until sunrise, watching that door like it might breathe. When daylight finally came, I packed my things fast. The front office was empty again. No woman. No sound of anyone. I left the key on the counter and stepped outside. That's when I saw the motel sign clearly for the first time in daylight. The Mirage Motel letters were faded, half missing, and below them, in smaller text, it said closed since 1989. Every window was boarded up. Every door padlocked. The building looked abandoned. The kind of place you'd swear had been dead for decades. But when I turned back toward my car, room 9's curtain moved. Just slightly, like someone was watching me leave. This happened on the stretch of Route 66 between Grants and Gallup, New Mexico. It was early August, the kind of night where the desert air feels alive, humming with electricity. I've been hauling a small trailer for my job and pulled into a 24-hour truck stop just before midnight. The place looked brand new, bright LED lights, spotless restrooms, but almost too empty. One semi idled near the pumps, driver's door open, engine still running, but no one inside. I figured he'd gone in to pay. Inside, the air conditioning hit like a freezer. The clerk was a young guy, mid-20s maybe, with tired eyes and a Route 66 souvenir shirt. He barely looked up when I asked about coffee. "Machines by the wall," he said. His voice cracked like he hadn't spoken all night. As I filled my cup, I noticed something odd. The entire security camera monitor behind the counter showed static, every channel flickering gray and white. Storm knocked them out? I joked. He didn't answer, just stared at the door like he was waiting for someone who was late. When I stepped back outside, the semi was still idling, door wide open, interior light on. No driver. I called out, thinking maybe he'd wandered off. No response. I climbed one step onto the side rail and looked in. The keys were in the ignition. A half-eaten sandwich sat on the dash, and the CB radio mic was hanging, swinging slightly. The digital clock on the dash read 2:37 a.m. The same minute my phone's screen suddenly dimmed, even though it was fully charged. Then I heard it, a faint voice over the truck's CB, repeating something through heavy static. "Pull over. Don't look back. Pull over." I jumped down fast. The store's glass door reflected the parking lot behind me, or I thought it did. In the reflection, I saw a movement near the edge of the pumps. A tall silhouette, thin, almost stretched, walking in slow jerks like a puppet. I turned around, nothing there. Only wind and the distant hum of the highway. I told myself I was imagining it. But when I looked back through the glass again, the reflection was closer. Maybe 10 feet behind me now. I ran inside, heart pounding. The clerk didn't even flinch. He just said quietly, "You saw it, didn't you?" My throat went dry. Before I could answer, every light in the building flickered once and went out. Total darkness, except for the glow of the refrigerators humming faintly. From outside came the sound of footsteps scraping on asphalt. Slow, dragging, deliberate. Then the bell above the entrance gave a single, sharp ding, like someone had stepped through the door. The clerk whispered, "Don't move." We stood there, both holding our breath. Something brushed against the candy racks, a plastic wrapper crinkled, then silence again. After what felt like forever, the lights snapped back on. The store was empty. No one there. The automatic doors were still closed, and yet the bell had chimed. I looked at the clerk. He was pale, shaking. "It happens sometimes," he muttered. "Only on nights when someone leaves their engine running." I bolted from my car, glancing once at the semi. The engine was off now. Door closed. No driver in sight. As I pulled onto the highway, I checked my rearview mirror. The truck stop had gone completely dark, every light out like it had never been open. A few days later, I passed through the same stretch again during daylight. The place looked abandoned, boarded windows, no pumps, dust covering everything. The sign that once read 24-hour truck stop was missing letters, now spelling just stop. I still don't know if that's a warning or a coincidence, but ever since that night, every time I see a truck idling on the shoulder of Route 66, I check the cab, and I never, ever look in the mirrors for too long. It was just past midnight, maybe 100 miles east of Winslow, Arizona. The desert air was cool, the kind that slips through an open window and keeps you awake even when your eyes burn from the road. I've been driving alone for hours, headlights carving tunnels through the dark. That's when I saw her, standing on the shoulder in a white sweatshirt, one arm raised like she'd been waiting for me. I almost kept going, but guilt got the better of me. Out there, cell service dies quick, and walking miles in that heat, or cold, can kill you. When she climbed in, the car filled with the scent of rain and gasoline. She couldn't have been older than 20. "Thanks for stopping," she said softly, staring straight ahead. Her backpack sat in her lap, like she didn't trust it on the floor. I asked where she was headed. "Flagstaff," she answered, but her voice cracked on the last syllable. I joked that I could take her as far as Holbrook. She nodded without looking at me. For the next 10 miles, neither of us spoke. Just the hum of tires and the occasional static burst from my radio. Around the 13th mile, she whispered, "Can you pull over? I think that truck's following us." I checked the mirror. Headlights in the distance, maybe half a mile back. Nothing unusual. But every time I accelerated, those lights grew closer, then backed off again. I asked if she knew anyone driving that late. She didn't answer, just hugged her backpack tighter. When the truck finally roared past us, I caught a glimpse of the driver, a man with his head tilted down, like he was looking at something in his lap. No plates on the back, just dust. Relieved, I told her it was probably nothing. She nodded slowly, then said something that froze me. "He's been doing that all night." I started to ask what she meant, but when I glanced over, the passenger seat was empty. The backpack was gone too. I swerved, heart hammering, pulled onto the shoulder, and shined my flashlight across the seat. Nothing. No door slam, no sound, no footprints on the sand outside. Just the highway stretching out forever. I drove the rest of the way to Holbrook with every light in the car on, repeating to myself that I was tired, that my mind was playing tricks. A few days later, I mentioned it at a diner near Gallup. The waitress froze mid-pour. "You saw the girl in the white sweatshirt?" she asked. I nodded. She set the coffee pot down slowly. "Honey, that stretch outside Winslow's where they found a young woman last summer. Hit and run. Backpack full of postcards from a road trip. No one ever claimed her. I didn't touch the coffee. I haven't stopped on that road since. This happened near the California border, just outside Needles. I'd been on the road since sunrise, exhausted, eyes burning from the endless desert glare. Around 2 a.m., I spotted a glowing sign half buried in dust. Mel's Diner, open 24 hours. It felt like something out of an old postcard, the kind of roadside joint you picture truckers swearing by. I hadn't eaten since morning, so I pulled in. The parking lot was empty except for an old pickup, hood up like someone had given up mid-repair. Inside, the lights were dim, humming with that tired yellow glow that makes everything look older than it is. A jukebox played softly in the corner, Blue Moon by the Marcells, skipping every few seconds. Behind the counter, a woman stood perfectly still, staring at a coffee pot that wasn't brewing. She smiled when I sat down, but the smile never reached her eyes. "What'll it be?" she asked. I ordered coffee and pie. Her hands trembled as she poured, spilling dark streaks across the counter. I tried to make small talk, asked how long she'd been open. She said, "Since forever," then turned away. When she came back, she placed the pie in front of me, but the plate was cold. The slice looked perfect, like a photograph, not food. That's when I noticed something strange. The entire diner reflected faintly in the window, but my seat in the reflection was empty. I leaned closer, trying to see if it was a trick of the light. That's when I saw movement behind the counter. A man's silhouette, tall, standing just beyond the kitchen door. The waitress didn't react. She just kept refilling my empty cup with coffee that smelled like rust. A loud clang echoed from the kitchen, like a pot hitting the floor. The jukebox stopped mid-song. Then silence. The waitress looked at me and whispered, "You should go now." Her face was pale, her hands gripping the counter until her knuckles turned white. I grabbed my keys, tossed a few dollars, and hurried out. When I looked back through the window, the diner was pitch black. No lights, no music, no people. Just my car's headlights reflecting off the glass. The next morning, I stopped at a gas station and asked the clerk about Mel's Diner. He frowned and said, "You mean the old one by the interstate? That place burned down in the 70s. He even pulled up a local article on his phone. The headline read, "For found dead in overnight blaze. Cause unknown." I scrolled through the photos, and there it was, the same neon sign, the same chrome counter, the same waitress staring at the camera with that exact same half smile. The caption under her picture read, "Melanie Burns, owner." Every time I drive through Needles now, I look for that sign. Sometimes, when the heat haze ripples just right, I swear I can see a flicker of pink neon on the horizon. A diner that shouldn't exist anymore, waiting for someone too tired to know better. If you ever find yourself out there, between the glow of one town and the shadow of the next, lock your doors, fill your tank, and keep your headlights steady. Because on Route 66, some people never reach their destination, and some who do aren't the same when they arrive. Which story do you think was real? Or are they all just echoes from a road that refuses to die? Tell me what you believe in the comments below. And if you want to keep traveling down the darker side of America, you know what to do. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay on the road. Just don't stop for too long.